I just actually was in Seattle. I just got back yesterday, and I was presenting to funders about Bigger Than a Bread Box, our Art Nights Arts Challenge project, and trying to bring some national money to Akron. Like, one of the guys I was presenting to was an executive at 20th Century Fox, that kind of thing. And, you know, I got dressed up, I wore a suit, a tie, and I still presented barefoot, though. Yeah. Because part of our project is about promoting radical acceptance, and if I can't be true to myself during these kind of pitch meetings, then what are we building this world for? At least that's my view. And all of the funders, all of them said, we loved that you were barefoot. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, Ace is right. Be true to yourself. Unfortunately, like, I get stage fright. Like, this is out of my comfort zone, and I did not throw up on them either. So that was good.
Did you have a microphone for that presentation?
No.
So that probably made it a little bit better. Did you have stage lights blinding you?
No.
No, that probably made it a little better too. So we are trying to stretch our comfort zone tonight by telling a story together.
Yeah, full circle first.
Oh, yeah, we've never had two storytellers on the stage at one given time. So this story is called A Duel, D-U-E-L, Proposal.
Okay.
I named it, I decided. So, I get some choices. That was mine. So I stepped out of my comfort zone the minute that I moved into a 7x7 bedroom with this this incredible person. But at the time, I didn't really know him other than being a director. When we finally got together, he admitted to me that his longest relationship had been 3 months.
No. It had been 1 month.
Oh wow, I'm exaggerating, boy. I'm trying to make you look good.
Yeah, I was real, I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I didn't want. And mostly that was like, as soon as you put out, we were done.
Yeah, well, I didn't put out, so that helped to keep our relationship going for a while. I knew all I needed to do was get to a month and a day, and I was golden. So once we really got into the relationship, we're talking 6-7 months, which is really early in most relationships. This dude, whose longest relationship had been 1 month, starts talking about being married to me. Now, I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship with a very, very good partner, and I was not at all ready to make that kind of commitment.
And his partner was a lady.
Yes. And she actually, I really thought that I was going to propose to her after I had graduated college. So like, I had it like all planned out in my head. So, but that trajectory was like a 6-year plan. Meanwhile, he's coming up 6 months, and he's like, hey, you know, I think we could be married. So I would always just block him off and be like, no, I mean, do you know what that means? Like, we'd be together forever. Not just like for 1 month or 6 months, like forever. Do you understand that? And so he continued to pursue, but he always did it in a very joking manner. So it was never a serious, like, getting down on one knee, will you marry me? It was always just like, hey, I think a ring would look good on your finger.
Well, okay, because really, do you ever just get married without, like, ever talking about it beforehand? Is it ever just, like, a total surprise? And if it is, like, how is that a good relationship? You should probably talk about these things together, right? That's at least my thought.
So we did talk, and we talked, and I told him that I needed time. I needed to know that, like, this was serious and could last. Because I had been with, you know, my other partner for 3 years, and, you know, that's not that long, but to me, being, you know, 18 to 21, that was long, and it didn't last. So why after 6 months would I think this would? that leads us to eventually suing our landlord.
Yeah, directly. We sued him because it wasn't conducive, right?
He wasn't helping our relationship. We had no electricity upstairs. Oh, come on. So we ended up moving to Cuyahoga Falls. Oh, come on. No. Cuyahoga Falls has a lot of great things. I still like Cuyahoga Falls.
Caucasian Falls.
That is the name for it. So we moved to Cuyahoga Falls, and we were only actually there for a couple of months, but it was the first time that we had really removed our relationship out of the comfort zone, because we were no longer surrounded by our best friends. Jeff was living in Canton, Kevin was living in Cuyahoga Falls, but in a different house. So it was us, and then, a couple other friends who we'd never lived with before. And so it brought us closer together. And we started, as always, taking walks, but through Cuyahoga Falls. And there was one night, we had been together now at this point for about 9 months, and we were walking and walking and walking all night, talking about everything that you can imagine, every genre. And we went through Front Street, I remember the fountain was still working, so we started playing in the fountain.
We were also maybe inebriated of some sort, like maybe tripping over ourselves, let's say.
And it was 3 in the morning, and we decided we should head home. So we get all the way back to the house, and we're laying together and kind of wrestling, and all of a sudden, Benjamin asks a question. And even to this day, I don't remember what the words were, but I knew what he was asking was, "Will you marry me?"
Now, see, that's not what I remember. What I remember is just out of the blue, we're wrestling. We're like, oh, this is so beautiful. It's so colorful. Look at how bright everything is. And Kyle's like, "Will you marry me?"
Yeah, so seriously. Will you marry me? So, basically, that memory in that moment was made. And so then, about an hour later, we stared at each other. Mm-hmm. And we said, "Did you just..."
No, see, it wasn't an hour later. For an hour, we sat there looking at each other going, "Did you just..." Because,
I think you just,
and I guess I would if you...
If you asked, I would. But did you ask?
Yeah, because, I'm not saying I want it.
No, but, if you asked, then
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And that's how we got engaged.
Okay. But then, we woke up and certain things had worn off a bit. And we were like, now really, if you're so inebriated that you're tripping over yourself, is that the best time to get engaged, right? And we were like, no, but okay, we got this. We're adults. We can handle this. So, the next day, we went out and bought rings for each other and said, okay, since that was it was under the influence of some stuff, we said, what we're gonna do is each take a ring, the ring for the other person, and you get to plan how you're going to propose to that person. In part, we're gays, we don't get the normal stuff anyway because it still wasn't legal in Ohio at the time. So we were like, you know what, we're gonna do it our way. And each of us is gonna get a special moment. And so for me, our connection is through theater. We run a theater company. So I'm like, okay, we're play about the Rwandan genocide, so like it only makes sense to propose after this.
Especially when it ends with every single character dying, so that's beautiful. So, I remember dying on stage. And then we got up for a company bow.
Well, hold on. So there's one important part of this story is like, okay, so I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? Okay, so I make sure that his entire family is in the audience that night, right? Everyone that all of our friends, all of our family, and I'm like, okay, good, they're coming. So I was like, what am I going to do with the actors? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give everyone flowers. They're going to like somehow give these to Kyle. I don't know. So I stop in at every bloomin' thing. It was my first time in the flower shop. And I walk in, and I'm like, this is great, how much are roses? And he gave a price, and I said, okay, that's a little too expensive for me because I'm a broke artist. So I leave, get in the car, I'm halfway to Acme in Wallhaven. I turn around, and I come back, and I look at him, and I go, hey, I have a question for you, flower salesman. Are you family? Which, if you don't know, means like, are you gay? And he's like,
we are family.
Right? And he said, yes. And I said, all right, well, I will buy these from you. So I bought from him, and that's actually how I got introduced to Scott, where in the basement of his space, Wandering Aesthetics was born.
So we finished the show, and we took our bows, and we had it designed so that we would all get into a very straight line, and we would sort of march off and march out.
And knowing this was coming, I had designed it so that Kyle was the last person to leave in the end of the line.
So we marched through the audience, which was part of the experience, and we're about to march through the door when everybody stops and freezes. And, being who I am, like, I'm very subtle, but I'm just like, guys, come on, we gotta open the door. Guys, we gotta leave. The show's over. And then Rosalind, who's our MC again at the Electric Pressure Cooker this coming Saturday, she came over to me.
Because there's nothing better than plugging an event in the middle of a store.
You get really good at doing it after a while. She grabbed me by the shoulders and she said, no, Kyle, you need to go back on stage. And it was at that moment that I noticed that every single one of them was grabbing a flower. And I was guided on stage, and I was completely caught off guard as Benjamin got down on one knee and proposed. So now it's my turn.
So playing our song.
Oh yes, which was played at our wedding too.
Yes.
Sang at our wedding.
Nothing Better by the Postal Service, because that's from the time before Kyle loved me. I used to jump rope to that song and cry.
He did, and he would sing it at the top of his lungs. It was adorably cute.
And so Kyle, we have a trip planned to go to Pittsburgh to see Keith and the Girl, the tattoo that's on my arm. It's a podcast that I've been listening to since 2006, and they do it 5 days a week. So it's at least an hour, sometimes more. And so they're a big part of my life. They're a big, big part of my life. And it's the first time that we're going to go see them live. And Kyle, this cute little Kyle, says something. And I don't remember what it was, but I went, he's going to propose to me at this event. So I do the only logical thing, and I skim through his email inbox. And I find out this is true. So then I start messing with him, and I'm like, Kyle, I don't even want to go to Keith and the Girl. I was like, I was like, we have so much work to do. I just don't think we can make it. Like, we can give our tickets to somebody else. And you can see the panic in his eye. Like, no, we have to go to this. And I'm like, I don't know. I'll just decide then. But eventually we go. And we get in a car ride situation with actually the woman who picked me up from the airport yesterday. And it's the first time meeting her, and she lives out in Youngstown. And, you know, we're traveling with her, and at some point, I'm like, hey, Nicole, Kyle's going to propose to me at this event tonight, and he doesn't know I know. And she's like, oh, that's so sweet. And so she and I get there, and she and I proceed to tell almost the entire audience and say, this is going to happen tonight, but don't tell Kyle.
The only people that didn't know that they all knew were the hosts of the show and me. And the hosts of the show were super excited. You know, this was a big secret. And this was the big proposal that was happening on stage in front of about 200 people to a live audience. So they actually called me on stage, is how it began, which I didn't know they were going to do, and they had me on their show.
Yeah, and you see this like wave rippling through the audience, like, oh my God, this is going to happen.
So as I sit up there awkwardly, because at this point, now I'm like a dedicated fan, but at this point I'd listened to like 3 episodes, so I had no idea how to be on a podcast. So I just sat up there kind of like, yeah, look at the lights. Wow, this is a cool space. So finally, one of the hosts said, oh, you know what? Kyle, I think you had something to ask, right? And so then I grabbed the microphone and I went downstage and I called Benjamin up and I got onto 2 knees because I was about to propose and then finish it off with a lick.
To my face, you people.
There's a really great picture of a lick right on his cheek, right here. So of course he said yes. And it was like right around that time, probably that evening, that I found out that, you know, he had actually snooped through my emails.
I only snooped because you said something that led me to believe that this is what was going to happen, and I just needed confirmation. Now, see, for me...
He hasn't stopped. He does it for his Christmas gifts.
Now, for me, what would have made this great was if Kyle found out that I knew and canceled it. And because that's just what I like about it.
I didn't know the
challenge.
inner workings of Benjamin at that point. I was still learning. See, were we really old enough to get engaged? We didn't even know each other.
And so the lesson from all of that is that, so the moral of the story is that I should have taken Kyle's advice, and now I am trapped for the rest of my life.
And my moral is, don't trust Benjamin Rexroad because he is a conniving bastard. Thank you.